Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm gonna be preparing some delicious cabbage rolls. Now the fields here are just loaded with cabbage. There's cabbage everywhere, so it's the ideal time to make cabbage rolls. And you know I'm gonna show you how to make them step by step. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm gonna do is start off with my cabbage. I have a large cabbage right here, and it's nice and clean. And I also have a pot with boiling water. It's at a low, steady boil. Now I've got a small sharp knife, and before I drop it into the water, I'm gonna remove the core right here. So I'm gonna go around it like this, very carefully. See, very easy. Now my water is at a low boil. I'm gonna drop it in there very carefully. You don't want to burn yourself. So here it is. Now I'm going to replace my lid, and I'm going to let it boil on low. You want your cabbage to boil anywhere between 7 and 10 minutes, depending on the size of your cabbage. Now we can move on to our next step. So now I'm ready to prepare my sauce. I transferred my cabbage over there to the stove, and it's at a low, steady boil. I've got this skillet nice and hot. It's at about a medium heat. I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of olive oil in here. Now I'm gonna add my onions. Now, whenever you prepare the sauce for your cabbage rolls, you wanna make sure that they taste delicious. There's nothing worse than real bland cabbage rolls. I've had them before, and they're not good. So I've got my onions in here. I'm gonna move them around until they're just slightly translucent. So now that my onions are nice and translucent, I'm gonna add my garlic. I have 3 large garlic cloves, finely minced. And I'm gonna move them around for about 1 minute and let these 2 flavors come in together really nicely. Now your kitchen is gonna smell delicious. Now I'm gonna add my crushed tomatoes. These are my canned tomatoes. This is all I have left. I'll be using them later in another recipe. I'm gonna add my crushed tomatoes in here. 3 cups. Ooh. I know there's 3 cups in here. And that's 3. 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. Now you can use white sugar if you'd rather do that. The acidity of the tomatoes and the apple cider vinegar and the sugar together, that's what makes it a classic cabbage roll dish. I'm gonna add half a teaspoon of onion powder in here. The onion powder just gives it another kick, and I love the onion powder in there. You can also add some garlic powder if you'd like. Some pepper, you can add as much pepper as you want, and some salt. That's good. And I'm gonna add a nice handful of freshly chopped parsley in here. That'll give it nice color. Anytime you prepare cabbage rolls, you wanna make sure that the flavor is delicious from the inside out. So you've gotta season this really well, otherwise it'll be really bland, and you don't want that. Now I'm gonna add my tomato sauce. I have 1 cup of tomato sauce. I always add the tomato sauce at the end because I wanna make sure that the garlic and the onions come in together really nicely. I'm gonna replace my lid, and I'm gonna let it simmer on low until I'm ready to use it. Now we can move on to the next step. So I'm ready to prepare my meat filling, but I've gotta get my cabbage out of the pot first. I just took it off the stove. I'm gonna get it out of this pot very carefully. You don't wanna burn yourself. Whoosh. And I'm gonna let it cool down a little bit. I'm gonna move it out of the way so that I can prepare my meat filling and just let it sit on the side like that. I've got a big bowl here, and I'm gonna be using 1.5 pounds of ground beef. Now this is very lean ground beef. You don't wanna use 80-20 because then when you roll them up, they're gonna be super greasy. Now you can use ground pork or you can use sweet Italian sausage. I'm gonna add 1.5 cups of partially cooked rice. I only boiled it for about 4 or 5 minutes. Now, I know a lot of people add their rice raw, but I don't like to do that. I don't want to take any chances. So I just partially boil it, and it works perfect every time. I'm gonna add a handful of freshly chopped parsley. It gives it nice color and flavor. That's good. I have 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. I'm gonna add it right here. Half a teaspoon of onion powder. Half a teaspoon of garlic powder. I'm gonna add some pepper. You can add as much as you want. 1 egg right here on the side. That's gonna be the glue that's gonna bring it in together. But it's not gonna compress it tight. It's just gonna bring everything in together really nicely. And I'm gonna add some salt. You don't wanna overdo it with the salt, but it does need it. Now, I don't like to mix it in really tight because then it's gonna look like Spam, and you don't want that. You wanna make sure that you mix it in really good, especially because of the egg. So I've got my meat filling ready. Now I can start working on my cabbage leaves and getting them ready to roll. I've given it a few minutes to cool down. Here's a top leaf. We can just set it aside. Now with a spoon, you can go in between the leaf and the cabbage and start separating them like this. See, they're nice and pretty. Now I'm gonna be using about 12 or so, maybe more, maybe less. So I've got all my cabbage leaves ready to roll. I'm gonna start off by removing this thick stem right here because, you know, it kind of gets in the way from the rolling. So I just cut a little V and just remove it like this. Then you can roll it up a lot easier. I'm gonna get some of my filling. You don't want them real thick, but you don't want them real thin either. Right here in the center, I'm gonna fold this in, bring this over, and just wrap it up. See? And I'm gonna put them right here on this plate. And I'm gonna continue rolling them. I'm gonna remove this thick stem from the center. Get some of my filling. Then I'm gonna bring it in together and roll it up. I'm gonna set it on my plate and continue the process. So I have all my cabbage rolls rolled. I'm gonna be using this dish right here. It's a 9 by 12, and I have my sauce ready. So I'm gonna spray my dish first before I do anything else, just lightly. That's good. Now I'm gonna put some of my sauce in the dish and let that be the foundation. I'm gonna spread out my sauce. Now I've got some scrap pieces of cabbage. I never like to throw them away, and I try and use as much as I can. So I'm gonna set them right here on the bottom. It'll be a nice little bed for them to sit on, like this. Now I'm gonna set my cabbage rolls. You can set them this way or this way. We'll give it a try like this. And here they are. Now I'm gonna add some of my sauce on top. Now I like to show some of the green. I think it looks pretty in the dish. I don't cover them all the way. Ooh, this looks delicious. Now I'm gonna cover them up really good with a piece of aluminum foil. I've got my oven preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm gonna put my dish in there for 1 hour and 15 minutes. After an hour and 15 minutes, I'm gonna remove the aluminum foil for the last 15 minutes uncovered. So I'll see you in a little bit. So my cabbage rolls are ready. Come take a look. Look at this. And they're bubbling, they're hot, and just beautiful. I can't wait to get into them. Now I'm gonna be serving them with mashed potatoes, but you can serve them with anything that you like. Now I've served them with roasted carrots, with green beans, with broccoli. It's all good. Here's some of the sauce. It's always nice to have a little foundation at the bottom. Just gives you a little bit more sauce to enjoy. And here are my cabbage rolls. Look at this. Now we can cut into them. Beautiful, look at this. I've been waiting for this all day. Now it's time for the taste test. A little bit of both, see? Mmm. Mmm. Comfort food at its best. Mm. These are out of this world delicious. I know you're gonna love them. So these are my cabbage rolls. If you like my recipe, give me a thumbs up, send me a comment and tell me what you think. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Thank you.